The 1940s produced some truly unforgettable automobiles, but not always for the right reasons. Here are 7 of the strangest cars from the decade that still surprise people today.
Number 1. 1948 Tucker 48. When I first discovered the 1948 Tucker 48, I honestly couldn't believe this car was built in the 1940s, because it looked like something that belonged decades in the future. At a time when most American cars still had traditional designs, with large grilles, separate fenders, and old-fashioned engineering, Tucker created a machine that looked like it had arrived from another planet. It had a futuristic aerodynamic body, a rear-mounted engine, a center headlight that actually turned with the steering wheel, and safety ideas that many major manufacturers wouldn't adopt for years. The Tucker 48 wasn't just another automobile. It was Preston Tucker's attempt to completely change what Americans expected from a car. And that ambition is exactly what made it one of the most fascinating and controversial vehicles in automotive history. After World War II ended, Americans were ready for something new. The country was entering a new era. People wanted modern homes, new technology, a better future. But when they looked at the cars being offered by the biggest manufacturers, many of them saw something familiar. Ford, Chevrolet, Chrysler. The major companies were mostly updating pre-war designs rather than creating something revolutionary. Preston Tucker believed America deserved something completely different. He didn't want to build just another sedan. He wanted to create the safest, most advanced automobile in the world. A car that would make traditional manufacturers look outdated. That dream became the Tucker 48, also known as the Tucker Torpedo. And from the moment people saw it, they knew it was unlike anything else. The first thing that shocked everyone was the design. The body was incredibly smooth and aerodynamic. Instead of a tall, upright shape common in the 1940s, the Tucker had a low, wide profile. The front end was rounded. The fenders flowed smoothly into the body. The overall shape looked more like a futuristic aircraft than a normal car. It didn't belong next to other vehicles of the era. It looked like it belonged on a highway decades later. But the most famous feature was in the center of the front grille area, a third headlight. At first, this seemed like a strange design choice, but Tucker had a reason. The center headlight was connected to the steering system. When the driver turned the wheel more than a certain amount, the headlight would turn with it. The idea was simple but brilliant. At night, the driver could see around corners better. It was a small detail, but it showed Tucker's philosophy. He wasn't just thinking about making cars look different, he was thinking about making them safer. And safety was one of the biggest areas where the Tucker 48 was ahead of its time. The car featured a padded dashboard designed to reduce injuries during crashes, a reinforced passenger compartment, a pop-out windshield designed to reduce injuries, a focus on protecting the people inside rather than simply making the car look impressive. In 1948, these ideas were revolutionary. Most manufacturers were still focused on style, horsepower, and comfort. Tucker was thinking about survival. But the innovations didn't stop there. Under the rear deck was another unusual feature, a rear-mounted engine. Instead of placing the engine in the front like most American cars, Tucker placed it behind the passengers. This design offered several advantages. It improved weight distribution. It created more interior space. It allowed the front of the car to have a smoother aerodynamic shape. The engine itself was also unusual. Tucker used a powerful flat-six engine originally developed for helicopters. This gave the car impressive performance for its time. The Tucker 48 was not just futuristic in appearance, it was futuristic underneath too. Inside, the cabin continued the theme of innovation. The cabin was spacious. The seats were designed with passenger comfort in mind. The overall layout felt more modern than many cars of the era. It was a car built around the idea that cars could be smarter, safer, and more advanced. But creating a revolutionary car was not easy, especially when competing against the largest automobile companies in America. The big companies had enormous resources. They had established factories, dealer networks, thousands of employees. Tucker was starting from almost nothing. He had the vision, he had the ideas, but turning those ideas into mass production was extremely difficult. Production problems slowed the project, financial issues appeared, and controversy surrounded the company. The dream that began with so much excitement quickly became a battle for survival. Eventually, the Tucker Corporation collapsed. Only 51 production cars were completed. A vehicle that was supposed to change the entire automobile industry became one of the rarest American cars ever built. But history has treated the Tucker 48 differently. At the time, many people saw it as a failure. Today, many enthusiasts see it as a masterpiece of ambition, because the Tucker 48 proved something important. A small company with a big idea could challenge the entire automotive world. It introduced concepts that later became common: safety-focused design, rear-engine experimentation, driver-centered engineering, aerodynamic styling. Many ideas that seemed strange in 1948 eventually became normal decades later. Today, surviving Tucker 48 cars are among the most valuable and recognizable American classics. Collectors don't just admire them because they are rare. They admire them because each one represents a dream that one person could build a better car and force an entire industry to think differently. The 1948 Tucker 48 wasn't perfect. It wasn't successful in the traditional sense, but it was something much more interesting. It was a glimpse into the future that appeared too early. A car that looked like it escaped from the 1960s and somehow arrived in the 1940s. And that's exactly why, more than 70 years later, people still look at the Tucker 48 and ask the same question: how did someone build something this advanced in 1948?
Number 2. 1947 Davis Divan. When I first discovered the 1947 Davis Divan, I honestly couldn't believe this was supposed to be a normal American car, because it looked like something created for a science fiction movie rather than something designed to drive on everyday roads. One wheel in the front, two wheels in the back, a long, futuristic body inspired by aircraft, a cabin that looked more like a small airplane than a family automobile. The Davis Divan was not just unusual, it was one of the strangest automotive experiments America ever produced. At a time when most manufacturers were building traditional four-wheel sedans with familiar designs, Davis decided to completely ignore the rules. The company believed the future of transportation would look completely different, and the result was a car that fascinated people when it appeared, but disappeared almost as quickly as it arrived. After World War II, America was entering a period of incredible optimism. People believed technology could solve almost anything. Airplanes had advanced dramatically during the war. Rocket research was beginning. New materials and engineering ideas were everywhere. Many inventors believed the automobile was ready for a complete transformation. One of those dreamers was Glenn Davis, who believed he could create a revolutionary new car that would compete with the biggest names in Detroit. Instead of copying Ford, Chevrolet, or Chrysler, Davis wanted to build something completely different. He imagined a vehicle that was smaller, more efficient, more aerodynamic, and cheaper to operate. That idea became the Davis Divan. The first thing everyone noticed was the design. It looked nothing like a traditional American automobile. The front of the car had only one wheel. The rear had two wheels. This three-wheel layout was chosen to reduce weight and improve efficiency. Davis believed fewer wheels meant lower production costs and better fuel economy. But visually, it created a machine that looked almost unreal.
From the front, the narrow nose and smooth body shape made it resemble a small aircraft. The rounded windshield, the low roofline, the flowing curves, everything about it suggested speed and the future. If someone saw it without knowing what it was, they might honestly think they were looking at an airplane that had somehow lost its wings. The aircraft inspiration was intentional. During the 1940s, airplanes represented progress and modern technology. Davis wanted his car to capture that same feeling. He wanted people to look at it and imagine the future. Inside, the unusual design continued. Despite its tiny appearance, the divan was surprisingly spacious. It was designed to carry 4 passengers. The seating arrangement was different from traditional cars, and the cabin had a more open feeling than many vehicles of the time. The idea was clever: create a compact car that still felt practical for families. But the biggest question was always the same: could something this different actually work? Technically, the Davis Divan had several interesting ideas. The lightweight body helped efficiency. The aerodynamic shape reduced drag. The 3-wheel design simplified some aspects of construction. But creating a revolutionary vehicle requires more than a good idea. It requires money, manufacturing, a huge manufacturing supply chain, and most importantly, customers willing to take a chance. That is where Davis struggled. The company promised a futuristic automobile, but turning those promises into real production proved extremely difficult. Factories were expensive, building cars required huge investments, and competing against established manufacturers with decades of experience was almost impossible. Early excitement quickly turned into problems. Customers who placed orders waited for cars that often never arrived. Financial difficulties grew. The company struggled to deliver on its promises. Eventually, the Davis Motor Car Company collapsed. The futuristic car that was supposed to change transportation became another forgotten automotive dream. Only a very small number of Davis Divans were produced. Many disappeared over the years because nobody expected them to become valuable classics. They were strange, they were unusual, and for a long time, they were simply forgotten. But today, the 1947 Davis Divan has become fascinating to collectors and automotive historians, not because it was successful, but because it was brave. It represents a time when inventors believed the future could be completely redesigned. A time when building a car wasn't just about transportation, it was about creating a vision. Looking back, the Davis Divan was not a failure because the idea was impossible. Many of its concepts, lightweight construction, aerodynamic design, efficient transportation, would become important decades later. The problem was that America in 1947 was not ready for such a radical machine. People still wanted familiar cars. They wanted proven designs. They wanted something they could trust. The Davis Divan was simply too different. It was a car that arrived before the world was ready, a vehicle with the shape of an airplane, the personality of a prototype, and the ambition of a revolution. The 1947 Davis Divan may have disappeared quickly, but it remains one of the most unforgettable examples of American automotive imagination. Because sometimes the strangest ideas are not remembered because they succeeded. They are remembered because someone was brave enough to try them.
Number 3. 1948 Tasco. When I first discovered the 1948 Tasco, I couldn't believe someone actually built a car that looked this futuristic in the late 1940s. Because this wasn't just another sports car, it looked like a machine that had escaped from a science fiction movie and somehow ended up on American roads. A glass bubble roof, aircraft-inspired styling, a cockpit-like interior, a body shape that looked more like a fighter plane than a traditional automobile. The Tasco was unlike anything most people had ever seen. At a time when American cars were still dominated by large chrome grilles, separate fenders, and classic pre-war styling, the Tasco looked like it belonged in another century. It was a glimpse of a future that had not arrived yet, and that was exactly the dream behind it. After World War II, America was fascinated by aviation. The war had shown the incredible possibilities of aircraft technology. Jets were becoming the future. Engineers were experimenting with new materials and aerodynamic shapes. Many designers believed cars would soon become as advanced and futuristic as airplanes. The 1948 Tasco was born from that excitement. Its name came from the American Sports Car Company, and the goal was ambitious: create an advanced American sports car that combined aircraft technology with road-going performance. The person behind the project was designer Theodore or Ted Hall, an engineer who had worked with aircraft design. Instead of following the traditional formula of building a low sports car with simple mechanical upgrades, he looked to the skies for inspiration. The result was one of the most unusual automobiles ever created. The first thing people noticed was the roof. The Tasco featured a transparent bubble canopy inspired by aircraft cockpits. It gave the driver and passengers a completely different experience. Instead of sitting inside a normal car cabin, they felt like they were sitting inside a futuristic airplane. The large glass canopy created incredible visibility and made the vehicle look decades ahead of its time. Today, bubble-style roofs are associated with concept cars and futuristic designs, but in 1948, this idea was almost unbelievable. Most cars still looked traditional. The Tasco looked like it came from the year 2000. The body design continued the aircraft theme. The front end was smooth and aerodynamic. The fenders were integrated into the body. The overall shape was low and sleek. There were no unnecessary decorations. Everything was focused on creating the impression of speed. It didn't look like a luxury sedan. It didn't look like a normal sports car. It looked like a road-going aircraft. Even the details showed how much aviation influenced the design. The front wheels were partially covered by aerodynamic fairings, similar to ideas used on aircraft. The cockpit-style seating arrangement made the driver feel more connected to the machine. Every part of the car was designed to create a futuristic experience. But building a dream and building a production car are two completely different things. The Tasco had an incredible appearance, but turning it into a successful automobile proved extremely difficult. The biggest challenge was cost. Advanced designs require advanced manufacturing. The unusual body, the complicated roof, the aircraft-inspired construction, all of these ideas made the car expensive to produce. And after World War II, the average American buyer was not looking for an expensive experimental sports car. Most people wanted practical transportation. They wanted reliable family cars. They wanted vehicles they could easily maintain. A futuristic machine with a bubble canopy was exciting, but it was not something most buyers were ready to purchase. The Tasco project never reached full production. Only a prototype was completed. The dream of creating America's first truly futuristic sports car ended before it could become a serious competitor. But the fact that it failed commercially doesn't make it less important. In many ways, the Tasco predicted design trends that would appear decades later. The influence of aircraft on automotive design became much stronger during the 1950s and 1960s. Manufacturers began creating cars with jet-inspired styling. Bubble canopies, futuristic interiors, and aerodynamic shapes became common themes in concept vehicles. The Tasco was simply ahead of the curve. It imagined the future before the future was ready. Over time, the single surviving example became a legendary piece of automotive history. Collectors and historians admire it not because it was successful, but because it showed how creative designers could be when they weren't limited by traditional thinking. The 1948 Tasco was not practical, it was not affordable, and it never became the sports car revolution its creators hoped for. But it achieved something else. It proved that a car could be more than transportation. It could be a vision. It could be a dream. It could represent the excitement of a new technological age. The 1948 Tasco looked like a science fiction fantasy that somehow became real. A car with the heart of an airplane, a sports car from a future that never arrived. And even though almost nobody drove one, it remains one of the most unbelievable American automotive creations ever built.
Number 4. 1946 Crosley CC. When I first discovered the 1946 Crosley CC, I couldn't believe this was actually an American car. Because compared with almost every other vehicle on American roads at the time, it looked completely out of place. While Detroit manufacturers were building bigger cars with massive hoods, wide bodies, and powerful engines, Crosley went in the exact opposite direction. It created something tiny, something lightweight, something so small that many people looked at it and wondered, is that really a car or is it some kind of toy? The Crosley CC was one of the strangest and most unusual American automobiles of the post-war era. It wasn't trying to compete with giant sedans from Ford, Chevrolet, or Chrysler. It was built around a completely different idea. Less weight, less fuel consumption, lower cost, simple transportation. And in a country obsessed with bigger and more powerful vehicles, that idea was incredibly difficult to sell. After World War II, America was entering a period of optimism and growth. Soldiers were returning home, families were expanding. People wanted new houses, new appliances, and new cars. The automobile industry responded by creating bigger and more impressive vehicles. Cars became symbols of success. The bigger the car, the more important it felt. Long hoods, huge chrome grills, large engines, luxury features. That was the direction the American market was moving. But Powell Crosley Jr., the man behind Crosley Motors, believed there was another future. He believed not everyone needed a giant automobile. Some people simply needed affordable, efficient transportation. His company had already built a reputation for small and inexpensive products, and the Crosley CC continued that philosophy. The first thing people noticed was the size. The Crosley CC was incredibly compact. Standing next to a typical American car from the late 1940s, it looked almost miniature. The body was narrow, the wheels were small, the overall design was simple and lightweight. It almost looked like a European city car that somehow appeared in a country filled with enormous American vehicles. For many Americans, that was a strange sight. They were used to cars that dominated the road. The Crosley seemed like it belonged on a different continent. But that small size was actually the point. The lightweight construction gave the car several advantages. It used less fuel, it was easy to maneuver, it was affordable for buyers who couldn't justify spending money on a larger vehicle. The Crosley CC was designed for practicality, not status. It wasn't meant to impress your neighbors, it was meant to get you where you needed to go. Under the hood was an equally unusual approach. Instead of using the large engines common in American cars, Crosley used a tiny four-cylinder engine designed for efficiency. It produced modest power, but because the car was so light, it could still handle everyday driving. The engineering philosophy was simple. Why build a huge engine when a small car doesn't need one? The interior followed the same idea. There was no unnecessary luxury, no excessive decoration, no attempt to pretend it wasn't what it was. Everything was focused on keeping the car simple and affordable. And that simplicity was both its greatest strength and its greatest weakness. Some owners loved the Crosley because it was cheap to operate and easy to maintain. It was perfect for short trips around town. It was economical. It was practical.
but many Americans simply couldn't accept the idea of such a small car. In a country where size represented success, the Crosley looked almost too humble. People who were used to large sedans often saw it as underpowered and too basic. The car arrived in the wrong market at the wrong time. Europe would later embrace small, efficient cars because of fuel shortages and limited space, but post-war America had the opposite mindset. People wanted more power, more space, more comfort. The Crosley represented a philosophy that wouldn't become popular in America for many more decades. Because of its limited appeal, Crosley production remained relatively small compared with the giants of Detroit. The company struggled to compete against established manufacturers with massive resources and loyal customers. Eventually, Crosley Motors disappeared. Many of these tiny cars were used until they wore out. Some were neglected because they were never considered valuable classics. Others simply disappeared as larger vehicles replaced them. Today, however, the 1946 Crosley CC is appreciated for exactly what made it unusual: its tiny size, its simple engineering, its willingness to challenge American automotive traditions. Collectors see it as an important reminder that not every revolutionary idea has to be big. Sometimes the smallest cars can have the biggest stories. Looking back, the Crosley CC wasn't a failure because it was a bad automobile. It was a failure because America wasn't ready for its idea. It arrived in a country that wanted giant machines at a time when Crosley was offering something completely different: a small car, a simple car, a practical car. The 1946 Crosley CC looked almost like a toy compared to the massive American automobiles of its era. But behind that tiny body was a surprisingly modern idea, a vision of efficiency and simplicity that would become popular many decades later. It was a little car that arrived too early. And that's exactly why today it remains one of the most fascinating, forgotten vehicles in American automotive history.
Number 5. 1949 Kurtis Sport Car. When I first discovered the 1949 Kurtis Sport Car, I couldn't believe this was actually a vehicle designed to drive on normal roads, because at first glance, it didn't look like a family automobile. It didn't look like a traditional American sports car. It looked like someone took a race car straight from the Indianapolis 500, added just enough equipment to make it street legal, and released it onto public roads. The exposed wheels, the extremely low body, the lightweight construction, the aggressive racing-inspired shape, everything about the Kurtis Sport Car screamed speed. It looked less like something parked in a driveway and more like something waiting at the starting line of a race. And that was exactly the idea behind it. The 1949 Kurtis Sport Car was created by one of America's most talented automotive designers, Frank Kurtis, a man famous for building some of the most successful racing machines of his era. Unlike large manufacturers that designed cars for millions of customers, Kurtis approached automobiles from a racer's perspective. He cared about weight, handling, performance, and the connection between the driver and the machine. After World War II, America was experiencing a new fascination with sports cars and racing. Returning soldiers had seen European performance cars overseas and brought back an interest in lightweight, agile vehicles. But the American market was still dominated by large luxury cars, big engines, heavy bodies, comfort-focused designs. There were very few American cars that focused purely on driving excitement. Frank Kurtis wanted to change that. He believed America could build a true sports car that could compete with the best machines from Europe. The result was the Kurtis Sport Car. The first thing people noticed was the unusual design. The body sat extremely low to the ground. The wheels were exposed outside the body, just like a traditional race car. The front end was narrow and aerodynamic. The entire vehicle looked like it had been shaped by the wind. At a time when most American cars were becoming larger and heavier, the Kurtis went in the opposite direction. It was small, light, focused. There was no unnecessary weight. Every part of the car had a purpose. The lightweight body helped improve acceleration and handling. The low stance helped the car feel connected to the road. The open wheel design reduced the distance between a driver and the driving experience. It wasn't designed to be a comfortable highway cruiser. It was designed to make every corner exciting. Inside, the racing influence was impossible to ignore. The cabin was simple and driver-focused. There were no excessive luxury features, no giant seats, no complicated decorations. The goal was to create the feeling of sitting inside a competition machine. And for many enthusiasts, that was exactly what made it special. But creating a car like this in post-war America was incredibly difficult. The biggest problem was that most buyers were not looking for a race car with license plates. They wanted practical vehicles. They wanted cars that could carry families. They wanted comfort, reliability, and easy maintenance. The Kurtis Sport Car offered something completely different. It was exciting, it was unique, but it was also expensive and specialized. Building a lightweight performance car by hand required time and money. Unlike Ford or Chevrolet, Kurtis didn't have giant factories or a nationwide dealer network. Each car was essentially a carefully crafted machine. That meant production numbers remained extremely low. Only a small number were built, making the Kurtis Sport Car one of the rarest American sports cars of the era. The limited production meant that most Americans never had the chance to see one. For many years, it remained a hidden chapter in automotive history. But among racers and collectors, Frank Kurtis earned enormous respect. His creations influenced the development of American sports cars and racing machines. He proved that American designers could create lightweight performance vehicles that were completely different from Detroit's traditional approach. The 1949 Kurtis Sport Car may not have become a commercial success, but it achieved something more important. It showed what was possible. It represented a time when independent builders could experiment without following the rules of the major manufacturers. It was a car built from passion, not market research. Looking back today, the Kurtis Sport Car feels like a vehicle that arrived too early. Modern sports cars are built around many of the same ideas: low weight, excellent handling, driver-focused design, racing technology transferred to the road. Frank Kurtis understood those principles decades before they became common. The 1949 Kurtis Sport Car was not practical, it was not affordable, and it was not built for everyone, but that was never the point. It was created for people who wanted something unforgettable. A street-legal race car, a machine that looked like it escaped from a racetrack. And even though only a handful were ever built, the Kurtis Sport Car remains one of America's most incredible, forgotten automotive creations. Because sometimes the rarest cars are not remembered because they sold millions, they are remembered because they dared to be completely different.
Number 6. 1949 Healey Silverstone. When I first discovered the 1949 Healey Silverstone, I couldn't believe this was supposed to be a road car. Because compared with almost every other automobile of the late 1940s, it looked completely different. It wasn't big, it wasn't comfortable, it wasn't designed to impress passengers. It looked like a race car that had somehow escaped from the track and received permission to drive on public roads. Tiny doors, open cycle fenders, a narrow body, a cockpit-style interior. Everything about the Healey Silverstone focused on one thing: driving excitement. At a time when most cars were becoming larger, heavier, and more luxurious, the Silverstone went in the opposite direction. It was small, lightweight, simple, and completely focused on performance. The 1949 Healey Silverstone was created by British engineer and racing enthusiast Donald Healey, a man who believed that sports cars should not just look fast, they should feel fast. After World War II, many countries were rebuilding their automotive industries. Large manufacturers were returning to producing normal cars for everyday customers. But there was also a growing group of enthusiasts who wanted something different.
They wanted cars that reminded them of racing, cars that were exciting to drive, cars that connected the driver directly to the road. Donald Healey saw an opportunity. Instead of building another comfortable sedan, he created a lightweight sports machine designed for competition. The result was the Healey Silverstone. The first thing people noticed was the appearance. This car looked like nothing else parked beside ordinary automobiles. The exposed cycle fenders immediately gave away its racing intentions. Unlike normal cars where the wheels were covered by the body, the Silverstone had individual fenders around each wheel, similar to early racing machines. The design reduced weight and created a much more aggressive appearance. The body was low and narrow, the windshield was small, the doors were tiny. Everything about the car suggested that comfort was not the main priority. Getting the driver closer to the experience was. Even entering the car was different. The small doors and tight cockpit made it feel more like climbing into a competition vehicle than sitting inside a normal automobile. Once inside, the driver faced a simple, focused environment. There were no unnecessary luxury features, no extra decoration, no attempt to make it feel like a family car. The Silverstone was built around the driver. The wheeling wheel, the pedals, the seating position, everything was arranged to create the feeling of controlling a racing machine. Underneath the lightweight body was equally serious engineering. The Silverstone used a strong chassis and a reliable engine designed to provide enjoyable performance without unnecessary complexity. Because the car was so light, it didn't need enormous horsepower to feel exciting. It could accelerate quickly. It could handle corners with confidence. It rewarded drivers who enjoyed the actual process of driving. But this type of car had a very limited audience. Most people after World War II were not looking for a small, uncomfortable sports car. Families needed practical transportation. Workers needed reliable vehicles. The average buyer wanted space, comfort, and convenience. The Healey Silverstone offered the opposite. It was cramped, it was noisy, it was not easy to live with every day. But for racing enthusiasts, those weaknesses were actually part of the appeal. The biggest challenge was that it competed in a very small market. Hand-built sports cars were expensive to produce. They required skilled workers and careful construction. Unlike major manufacturers, Healey did not have the resources to build thousands of cars. Only a limited number of Silverstones were produced. Because of that, many people never even saw one when it was new. Over the years, many sports cars like this were used for racing. Some were damaged, others were modified, some simply disappeared. The few that survived became highly valued by collectors who understood their importance. Today, the 1949 Healey Silverstone is remembered as one of the most unique sports cars of its era. It represents a time when small independent builders could create machines with personality and character. It wasn't designed to compete with large American sedans. It wasn't trying to be practical. It existed for one reason: to make driving exciting. Looking back, the Healey Silverstone was successful because it sold in huge numbers. It was successful because it captured a feeling of speed, a feeling of freedom, a feeling that the driver was part of the machine. The 1949 Healey Silverstone looked strange compared with ordinary cars of the late 1940s. The tiny doors, the open wheels, the cramped cockpit, everything about it seemed impractical. But those same qualities are exactly why enthusiasts still admire it today. It wasn't a car built for everyone. It was a car built for people who wanted something unforgettable. A street-legal race car from another era. A machine that proved a small car could create a huge impression.
Number 7, 1949 Veritas Scorpion. When I first discovered the 1949 Veritas Scorpion, I couldn't believe this car came from the years immediately after World War II. Because at a time when many manufacturers were simply trying to rebuild and produce practical transportation, Veritas created something completely different, a dramatic sports car, a machine that looked like it belonged on a European racing circuit rather than an ordinary road. The long hood, the tiny windshield, the low seating position, the flowing curves. Everything about the Veritas Scorpion looked aggressive, elegant, and almost unreal. It wasn't designed to be a family car. It wasn't designed to be practical. It was created for one purpose, to bring racing technology and excitement to the road. And because it was built in extremely small numbers, the Veritas Scorpion became one of those forgotten automotive legends that many enthusiasts have never had the chance to see in person. After World War II, Germany's automotive industry was in a difficult position. Factories had been damaged, resources were limited, large-scale automobile production was extremely challenging. But despite these difficulties, a group of talented engineers and racing enthusiasts believed Germany could return to building high-performance machines. That group became Veritas. The company was founded by former BMW engineers who wanted to create advanced sports and racing cars based on their experience with competition vehicles. Instead of focusing on affordable transportation, Veritas aimed much higher. They wanted to build cars that could compete with some of Europe's most exciting sports machines. The Veritas Scorpion represented that dream. The first thing people noticed was the design. It looked completely different from ordinary cars of the late 1940s. The hood was incredibly long, stretching forward like a classic racing machine. The windshield was extremely small, giving the driver and passenger a feeling of sitting inside a competition car. The body featured smooth, flowing curves that made the car look fast even when standing still. There were no unnecessary decorations, no oversized luxury details. Every line seemed designed to improve speed and create emotion. The Scorpion had the appearance of a machine built for wealthy racing enthusiasts. It looked elegant but also dangerous, like it was always ready to attack the next corner. Inside, the racing influence continued. The cabin was compact and focused on the driver. There was no attempt to create a soft, comfortable luxury experience. The driver sat low. The controls were positioned for engagement. The entire interior reminded you that this was not an ordinary automobile. It was closer to a race car with a license plate. Underneath the beautiful body was serious performance engineering. Veritas used lightweight construction techniques that helped the car feel agile and responsive. The company understood an important racing principle. A lighter car does not need enormous power to feel exciting. The Scorpion was built around balance. The connection between the driver, the engine, and the road mattered more than simply having the biggest numbers. However, creating a vehicle like this in post-war Europe was incredibly difficult. Veritas was not a giant manufacturer. It didn't have the resources of companies like Mercedes-Benz or Porsche. Every car required careful hand-built construction. That meant production numbers remained extremely limited. The Scorpion was never a common sight. Most people never saw one outside of photographs. The company struggled financially, and Veritas eventually disappeared. The dream of becoming a major sports car manufacturer ended almost as quickly as it began. But the cars themselves became legendary, because unlike mass-produced vehicles, each Veritas represented craftsmanship and ambition. It showed what a small group of engineers could create with limited resources and a huge passion for performance. Over the years, many rare sports cars were forgotten because they didn't sell in large numbers. The Veritas Veritas Scorpion suffered the same fate. It was overshadowed by better-known European sports cars that came later, but collectors eventually began recognizing its importance. Today, surviving examples are incredibly rare. Seeing one in person is a special experience because so few were ever built. The 1949 Veritas Scorpion represents a fascinating moment in automotive history, a time when small companies could challenge the biggest names, a time when designers were free to experiment, a time when a beautiful idea could become a hand-built reality, even if only a few people ever owned one. Looking back, the Veritas Scorpion was not successful because it became a worldwide bestseller. It was successful because it proved that passion could create something unforgettable. It had the shape of a racing legend, the soul of a competition car, and the rarity of a true automotive treasure. The 1949 Veritas Scorpion may have disappeared from public memory for many years, but for those lucky enough to see one today, it remains one of the wildest and most beautiful post-war sports cars ever created.